What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. This is my full card breakdown and prediction video for Dana White's Contender Series week number 4. We are right back into it for, in my opinion, a good card, but just kind of a weird card. I feel like there's like some really weird stuff going on in some of these matchups. Just some weird stuff that we'll talk about. But yeah, looking forward to it nonetheless. I think it's going to be a violent card. I'm personally picking, I think, 4 out of the 5 fights to finish. So yeah, looking forward to, talking through these fights, breaking it down. The research is all done, and of course, watching some fights on a Tuesday night. I think the season thus far has been phenomenal. We've got some great finishes. We've got some great prospects signed as well, and maybe we'll find some on this card as well. So yeah, before we get into it, if you guys could please do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and leave me a comment. The engagement really does help, whether it's positive, whether it's a negative. It could be a negative comment. Negative comments are fine as well. Nothing anybody says will affect me. I don't have feelings. I don't have feelings anymore. So yeah, just comment. It helps out a ton. If you guys want to, go the extra mile and support me, the best way to do so is dfsbythenumbers.com. That's where you'll find all my other content, of course, UFC content, and then also Dana White's Contender Series content, the fighter notes, the best bet article, and then also, of course, the betting breakdown video, and all that will be out Monday noon-ish. So yeah, check that out. All right. With all that out of the way, I say we get into it, guys. And by the way, I'm running on like 0 hours of sleep, so let's see how this goes. I'm gonna try my best, and that's all you can really ask for, is just trying your best. So let's get into it. Anyway, we got Quillan, Salkilld going against Gage Young, and we will start with Quillan Salkilld. He is training out of Luistro Combat Academy. He is 24 years old, 6'3" with a 75-inch reach, 6-1. And 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Notable wins or losses, didn't find much for Salkilld. Hasn't fought the worst competition in the world, but nobody too notable there. As far as Salkilld, he is a really good finisher. He's only been to decision once. Well, he's won 1 decision, and he has a 33% knockout rate and a 50% submission rate for, like I said, an overall finish rate of 83%. So some notes I have here on Salkilld. He is obviously massive for the division, so it's weird with his height. So on UFC stats, they have he's listed as 6'3", and on Tapology he's listed at 6 foot. And typically UFC stats should be correct, because I think they measure these guys and everything. But yeah, it says he's 6'3", but at the face-offs today, I was expecting Salkilld to be much towering over Gage Young, and that wasn't the case. He was clearly taller, but he wasn't. I was expecting to be a couple weight classes bigger. So I think somebody's lying here. I don't think Salkilld is 6'3", or maybe Gage Young isn't 5'9", but I think that's kind of misleading. I don't think he's going to have that much of a size advantage here. But yeah, he's still big for the division though, right? He has hard kicks. He swings very wild on the feet. He definitely has some power. I've seen him knock guys out cold. The striking looks solid to me. He has constant pressure, very aggressive, and really wherever the fight goes, whether he's on the feet, whether he's on the mat, and he is looking to get the fight down to the mat in the majority of his fights. And he looks to be a pretty good grappler as well. He's very heavy on top, has some pretty good ground and pound as well, and has a tight squeeze on him. He's submitted half of his opponents as a professional, and you just don't want this guy on your back. You just don't want this guy on your neck. I have seen him taken down, and his takedown defense honestly isn't the best, but he has very impressive reversals. Guys will take him down. It's like he instantly reverses, gets on top, and he just doesn't stay on his back for too long. And his grappling, his scrambling ability is just very fun to watch. I think he's a high-level grappler. I've seen him go 5 rounds, which is good as well, and dominate pretty much the entire fight. The cardio seems to check out. He's big, he's young, he's 24, and he's dangerous wherever the fight goes. And he also has a lot of solid experience between a pro, and I think he has a lot of amateur experience as well. So overall, I was pretty impressed with Salkilld. I think he's pretty good overall. But yeah, 6'3", I'm not sure about no 6'3". As far as Gage Young, he is training out of Ignite Jiu-Jitsu and MMA Academy. He's 24 years old, 5'9", with a 70-inch reach, 8-1, 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Didn't really find any notable wins or losses for Young. He has a 76% finish rate, 63% by knockout, 13% by submission. So notes I have on him. Like I said, he's going to be undersized in this matchup, but he's going to be a lot less undersized than I once anticipated. So take that as you will. And he's going to be a lot undersized in a lot of his matchups at 5'9", right? Just like Salkilld, though, he's very young and he's going to be making massive improvements fight after fight. He does have hard leg kicks in his own right, throws with very bad intentions. He can be a little bit wild in there, and he is a tad hittable. But yeah, he has good pressure, good wrestling as well. He has good elbows once he's on top, good ground and pound overall. And he's very heavy on top, very good top pressure. His ground and pound's nasty, and he just made multiple people quit in there. Not the best competition, but he's making guys quit. He's making guys look for a way out. And yeah, his ground game's not bad at all. And he has some sneaky power on the feet. When he's landing, he's like flatlining guys, and he's just very aggressive, when he's striking, really on top as well when he gets the fight down to the mat. He is passing the eye test for sure, but the level of competition I think is very suspect, and this is going to be obviously a massive step up. This is going to be his toughest test by a mile. And one thing I didn't like when researching this fight was I was not able to see his only loss, which it wasn't too long ago. It was back in 2022. Forget who it was against, but it would have been nice to kind of see that and see how he lost the fight and so on and so forth. But I was not able to see that fight, but it wasn't too long ago. But yeah, from what I've seen, I think he looks pretty solid to me. So final thoughts on this fight. Salkilld is going to be the much bigger fighter here, going to have a big reach advantage as well. I think Young can get takedowns, but I trust Salkilld to be able to reverse and potentially end up on top. I think Salkilld is the better grappler, and I like his striking a little bit more as well, especially with the reach advantage he's going to have. Young has solid ground and pound, but if he gets on top of Salkilld, I don't think that it's going to be the end of the world, whereas if Salkilld is able to get on top of Young or take his back especially, I think that could be the end of the fight. So I was really impressed with the grappling of Salkilld, and I think at some point, whether it's in a scramble or whatnot, I think he's going to take the back of Young and choke him out in the second round. So I'm going Quillan, Salkilld to win this fight. I'll take him to win by second round submission. Oh boy, here we go. Moving on to a fight that I just don't know what's going on here, but let's talk about it. Oh, by the way, the odds. Salkilld minus 200, Young plus 160 chalky card this week. I think he's I think this is the closest lined fight on the card. Anyway, this is the opposite. This is the widest lined fight on the card. We got Shannon Young going against Yuneisy Duden, or Dubin, or who cares? Who cares how it's pronounced? Shannon Clark, she's 32 years old, 5'6" with a 62.5-inch reach, 5-0, and 5-0 in her only 5 fights. No notable wins or losses for Clark, but she's been fighting in the LFA, which is at least a better promotion than Duden has been fighting in. Clark has an 80% finish rate, good finisher. Both these ladies are. She has a 60% knockout rate, a 20% submission rate. So for Shannon Clark, some notes I have on her: she does have a pulse, unlike Duben's previous opponents, and having a pulse I think is very important both in and outside the cage. You need a pulse to obviously live and fight. She does have hard leg kicks, decent pressure, and she can definitely be aggressive and rush forward like crazy. Can be a little reckless as well, but she's a lot more defensively sound and a lot more technical than her opponent here, who we'll talk about shortly. And yeah, I think she's solid in the clinch. I'd say her clinch game is probably maybe the best aspect of her game, what kind of impressed me most. She's strong there, she'll land knees, and yeah, I liked what I saw. She can grapple a little bit as well. She does have a sub win, I think it was a neck crank. She can be taken down. I've seen her taken down quite a few times, but she knows what she's doing on bottom. She's solid wherever the fight goes. She's tough, and she has a little bit of dog in her as well. Like, she'll run forward. She'll get a little dirty in there, and I like that. I like it a little dirty. From a fight perspective, that is. She isn't great anywhere, but I think she's okay everywhere, which I think that could be enough here. I think she does her best work, like I said, in the clinch, pressuring forward, the dirty boxing, and the aggressiveness is there. And like I said, she got that dog in her, which is always good to see. I like fighters with that dog in them. As far as Duden, she is training out of Los Perros Sarnosos. She's 28 years old, 5'4", with a 65-inch reach. She's 4-0, and obviously 4-0 in her only 4 fights. No notable wins or losses for Duden. She has a 100% finish rate. All those come by knockout. So some notes I have on her: she has the worst competition I've ever seen in my entire life, and we've seen some fighters come into Dana White's Contender Series with some awful level of competition, but this is the worst level of competition. It takes the cake. It's not even close that I've ever seen enter the Contender Series. She has 4 KO wins, but that just really means nothing. Her opponent's combined record when she fought them is 0-0. Like, if you add up all her 4 wins when she fought them, they're a combined 0-0. Like, they were all making their debut, which is wild. And since then, Her four opponents now are a combined 0-9-1 in their careers. They haven't gotten a win yet. I mean, it's just straight up embarrassing level of competition. Watching her fight was like watching a 3 a.m. brawl at the Waffle House, which I know you guys, I'm talking about. Like, it's sloppy. It's fun to watch. Don't get it. It's very fun to watch. It's entertaining, but, I don't know. Or it's like, one of those fights in like the school bathroom. It's just not technical, but, it's something you will watch and you will be enjoying it. But, she's aggressive, I'll say that. She's down to stand and bang. She can mix in some takedowns, I guess, here and there. It's weird. Like, she'll go crazy. Like, she'll go completely berserk, just let off on like a 70-punch combination with, no technique whatsoever. And then there will be times where there's just a big amount of inactivity and just a bunch of staring as well. She's exciting. She is very exciting. She's reckless. She's going to go in there and she's going to bring it, but I'm just not sure what's going on here. Yeah, her last win, her opponent threw in the towel, and like she literally threw in the towel. I don't think I've seen that in a very long time. They threw just like a t-shirt into the cage, like the definition of like they threw in the towel. It's wild. Anyway, final thoughts on this matchup. This doesn't make a ton of sense to me. Really, I'm not impressed with Clark like at all. But I mean, I would tend to imagine she wins this fight. But who knows? We've seen like crazier things. Duden has fought the worst competition imaginable. But she's going to be going for it. She's going to be reckless, and she's going to go in there with no regard for her own safety. In my opinion, this fight's going to be a chaotic car crash mess type of a fight. I think Clark is okay everywhere, and I can't really say the same thing about Duden. I'm not sure how Duden wins this fight outside of her landing something massive in a wild exchange, but I'm not sure how likely that is. I think Clark gets on top at some point and finishes his fight via TKO. One thing I want to bring up is the odds. Shannon Clark is minus 900. And Duben's plus 600. I think that's just ridiculous. Like, I don't think Clark's that, she's not all that. Like, but it just goes to show you, like, what people think of Duden, I guess. But, geez, like, how do you get to minus 900? I don't know. But, yeah, give me Clark to win this fight. I'll say she wins this fight by, like, a second round TKO type thing. All right, moving on to this next fight. Now, this is a fight that I'm looking forward to, and I'm looking forward to, this guy Bashi, man. We got Austin Bashi going against Dorian Ramos. We got Austin Bashi. He's training out of Warrior Way Martial Arts. He's 22 years old, 5'6", 12-0, and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. So notable wins or losses. He's actually beat some okay guys like Pipe Vargas, Askar. I think was like 14-3 or like 14-4. Askar's pretty decent guy. So yeah, I mean this guy's fought some good competition. 58% finish rate for Bashi, 25% by knockout, 33% by submission. And some notes I have on Bashi, he has a lot of experience for only being 22 years old. And like I said, his level of competition, it's not half bad at all. Solid combinations, very good kicks as well. Good movement on the feet, and I like the pressure. I like his activity overall. He's very well-rounded, seems to be pretty good everywhere, and he just looks like the real deal. You would think at 22 years old, this guy would look like green. And no, I mean, I think he looks pretty dang good to me. Really good entries on his takedowns, really good wrestling in general. Will lift guys up, slam them down. Control looks to be good on top. His ground and pound's very solid. He's aggressive once he gets on top. He looks for a ton of elbows, looks to pass. And yeah, we'll throw some knees to the body as well, which when he's on top, which I do like. Relentless when he's on top of his opponent. The grappling's very good. He's able to get to the back, he was able to sub both Pipe Vargas and Askar, which those are, solid, good, and impressive wins, especially to get a finish in both those wins. So, yeah, that's great. His control's insane, and he's going to be better and better every single fight. I think, 22-year-old, we're going to see just massive improvements, and this guy could end up being, like scary good. As far as Dorian Ramos, he's training out of Apex MMA. He's 30 years old, 5'7", 8-2, 4-1 in his last 5 fights. No notable wins or losses for Ramos. Has a 76% finish rate, equal opportunity finisher. Half those come by knockout, half those come by sub. So some notes I have on him, he's very active on the feet. Wherever the fight goes, really, he's pretty active, has some solid hands, not the best striking defense, but he can take a shot, good chin on him, doesn't really move his head too well, and he is there to be hit. I think he's a decent wrestler in his own right, but I do think he's going to be at a wrestling disadvantage here in this matchup, like for sure. You can absolutely be taken down, and there's no doubt in my mind that he's probably going to be taken down in this matchup here, and that's going to be that's probably going to be a problem. And yeah, I pretty much just think he's going to be at a disadvantage wherever this fight goes. Whether it's on the feet, I think, you're going to see Bashi being the better striker. And then if this fight does go down to the mat, I think it's going to be Bashi being the one able to get on top for the most part. I just think it's a rough matchup for Ramos here. I don't think he's terrible. I don't think he's terrible at all, but I just don't really like him in this fight. And I'm just really high on Bashi, and I think Bashi, at 22 years old, this guy has some upside for sure. Final thoughts on this matchup. Like I said, I think Bashi could be the real deal. Has some solid experience under his belt already. I think this is going to be a good fight for him. Looks pretty good wherever the fight goes. And like I said, with him being so young, like we've seen these young guys come in and we see these guys just get better and better at every single fight, and that could certainly be the case here, which could be scary because he already looks pretty solid to me. But yeah, I think Bashi wins this fight wherever it goes. I think he does the better work on the feet, better work in the grappling as well. I think he could get a finish here potentially, but I do think Ramos is very tough. So I'll say Bashi wins this fight, via decision, via comfortable type decision. So yeah, Bashi for me, Bashi by decision. Next, we have somebody that I am pretty familiar with in Will Currie, and he's taking on Djordon Santos. We got Will Currie training out of Gentis Combat. He's 25 years old, 6'3", 12-3 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Notable wins or losses, and yeah, you probably do recognize him from the Christian Leroy Duncan fights, because he did fight Christian Leroy Duncan in Cage Warriors multiple times. He lost to him twice. Once was by decision, and then once was by knockout. Both those came in 2021. Will Currie has an 83% finish rate, 33% by knockout, and 50% of those by submission. So some notes on him. Like I said, I'm familiar with him. He has 11 fights in Cage Warriors, which is solid, and has fought pretty good competition, especially, of course, like those Duncan fights. Curry's a very fast starter, has very hard leg kicks, hard kicks to the body as well, and his hands aren't bad either, and he has some sneaky power also. He will mix in takedowns, has really good grappling. I think the grappling is easily the best part of his game. Looks to get to his opponent's back or mount, and most of his finishes do come once the fight is on the ground, whether it's him landing nasty ground and pound or whether it's him looking for a submission. And he made his last opponent quit after the first round. He just took him down, just beat the brakes off of him, and his opponent said he didn't want any more. He just wants to get the fight down to the mat, and that's because he's extremely dangerous there. He's very good there, and I do like Will Currie quite a bit. As far as Djordon Santos, he's training out of Jab Promotions, I guess. He's 27 years old, 6 foot, 9-1, 4-1 in his last 5 fights. No notable wins or losses for Santos. He has a 77% finish rate, 33% by knockout, 44% by submission. Some notes I have on Santos, not a ton of footage available on him, and that's the case with a couple of the fighters in this card, man. But from what I've seen, he does have some heavy leg kicks. He's a fast starter, good pressure, low volume in there, but he can be a little bit wild. Once the fight, one of the fights I did watch, it was a 5-round fight, and my gosh, it was like one of the worst fights I've ever seen in my entire life, and I won, those 25 minutes back, because 25 minutes, there's only so many minutes in a day, and watching that fight, it just it ruined my day, quite frankly. Just a terrible fight. Nothing happened. One of those type. But he did go 5 rounds, but just nothing happened the entire fight. But yeah, he's trying to grapple in the fights I've seen, but he's had 0 success in the most of those fights. Like, he's not the best wrestler or grappler, so I'm not sure if it's going to work out here. The takedown defense does look solid, though, for sure, and he's going to need it here, and he's going to need to keep this fight standing. I have seen him held against the cage a lot, solid sprawl, and does a good job, popping back up once he gets taken down. I've actually seen him taken down a few times, though. But like I said, he's popping back up instantly, so good for him there. He can't really afford to be taken down here, though. The cardio does look a little bit suspect, and I feel like I just need to see more from him. Like I said, there's not a ton of footage on him. I think I was able to watch maybe 3 fights on the dude. Final thoughts on this fight here. I could be missing something here with the limited footage of Santos, but I feel like Currie probably shouldn't lose this fight. I feel like Currie's going to be better wherever the fight goes. Currie should be the better striker and just easily better once the fight hits the mat. Currie has also, of course, faced a much better competition and has the card advantage here more than likely. I think Currie gets the fight down to the mat and finishes it probably early. I'll say first round submission for Will Currie here. Should be a fun fight. All right, next we have the main event. It is Igor Cavalcanti going against Seok Ko. We will start with Cavalcanti, who is training out of Infidelity Fight Team. He's 26 years old, 5'11", with a 79.5-inch reach, 9-0, 5-0 in his last 5 fights. No notable wins or losses for Cavalcanti. Has a 100% finish rate, 78% by knockout, 22% by submission. So some notes I have on Igor Cavalcanti. So I've been doing Dana White's Contender Series content for the past several years, and believe it or not, this might be like the least amount of information I have on a fighter, Cavalcanti. I found, I think, about 30 seconds of footage of the guy, and I think the most I know about him is that he has one hell of an afro. I mean, just look at the picture right there, and I had to go check it out for myself. I had to go watch the face-offs and see if it was just as good, in person as it is in the photos, and you're damn right it is. But that's kind of, I feel like that's what I know about him best, because there's really not a ton of footage on him. I saw an amateur fight that lasted probably 7 seconds. He starched a guy. I saw a fight where he took somebody down and like insta-tapped him. But apparently he's very well-rounded. He's finished 100% of his wins. He has knockouts. He has subs. He's a brown belt in BJJ. And I can't emphasize this enough. He has one hell of an afro. I've seen him pick somebody up and slam him. Looks just very physically strong. And from what I've seen, and I haven't seen a ton, I've seen like literally 30 seconds of footage. He looks pretty dang good and explosive. Looks to have vicious ground and pound as well. Like I said, has a submission game. Concerningly, though, he's fought nobody. He's not been out of the first round. But I learned throughout the years of doing Dana White's Contender Series content is, guys with little to no footage, they end up surprising you in there. They end up looking very good. Like, for example, the last week dude, like I was able to only watch 2 fights of the main event dude. What's his face? I forget his name. But anyway, and from what I've seen, he wasn't that great, but, come fight time, he looked incredible, looked career best from what I've seen, and it's because there's not a ton of footage out there on these guys. But, skipping to the line, I mean, this guy's minus 300. I kind of feel like somebody knows something. Like, this guy could be a freaking beast for all we know. And from what I've seen, he does look like a beast. It's just we've only seen like 30 seconds of the dude. But from what I've seen, I was, pretty impressed. And he looks funny, he looks explosive. And I think this fight's going to be, very, very exciting. As far as Seok Hun Ko, he's training out of Team Shungun. Or Stun Gun. He's 28 years old, 5'10", with a 71-inch reach, 10-2 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Notable wins or losses: he did lose to former UFC fighter Sasha Palatnikov by knockout in 2018. He has a 60% finish rate, 60% by knockout, 0 by sub. So only knockouts for him when he's finishing fights. Some notes I have on Ko: he looks to start very fast. He's very aggressive, has some power. And he's been to decision before, unlike Cavalcanti. He has been to the second round before, unlike Cavalcanti. He's pretty much in his opponent's face the entire time. Decent hand speed, good combinations. He has some very heavy leg kicks as well, and he's dropped multiple opponents with those also. He does go to it often. I feel like the leg kick could probably be his best weapon. He's sharp on the feet. I like what I see. Takedown defense looks pretty solid from what I've seen as well. And although he is doing a lot of pressuring, he is in his opponent's face quite a bit, he can be very inactive at times. The volume isn't great, to be honest. I have seen him hurt before, and this is big. I have seen him hurt before, and he's been knocked out twice, both in about a minute. And that's just not a good look against a guy that's knocking guys out consistently in a minute. So I don't like that. He hasn't fought the best competition in his own right, but neither has Cavalcanti. I think he's okay, but I wasn't too impressed with the dude. And I don't care how long ago it was, but, getting knocked out by Sasha Palatnikov, I'm just not a big fan of that at all. And in 60 seconds nonetheless. So, I don't know. I mean, I wasn't impressed. Like, obviously I'm able to see more of this guy, but I just wasn't, kind of blown away by the dude. And just the chin's questionable, and I don't know. So, final thoughts on this fight. It's a weird fight. Like I said, I haven't seen much from Cavalcanti at all, but what I've seen from him is he's extremely aggressive, he's extremely dangerous, he's extremely explosive, he can clearly wrestle, he's a grappler, he's a BJJ brown belt, has a ton of power, and although there was a lot more footage of Ko, I just wasn't too impressed with the guy, and with him getting knocked out twice in the first minute of 2 fights, and I get to see the same thing happening here. Like this, it just kind of feels like Cavalcanti might just go out there and spark this guy in 60 seconds, and that's that. So I think that's what I'm going to pick. I think I'm going to pick Cavalcanti to go out there and spark this guy. I think he's going to KO Ko. I think he's going to KO Ko in this one. So I'm going to take Igor Cavalcanti to win this fight by 60-second finish. We'll see. But yeah, one hell of an afro on the dude. There you guys have it. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys could, like on your way out, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below as well. Content for UFC Vegas 97 will be out shortly. Also, have a couple more fights I want to dig into a little bit more. And then also, if you guys are on the website, dfsbythenumbers.com, the betting breakdown video will be out Monday afternoon, as will the best bet article too. So, yeah, looking forward to it. Fun card, kind of a weird card, but I think it's going to be exciting. Best of luck, guys. Dana White's Contender Series week number 4. See you later.